And a special thanks to Colonel Mitchell. I am not going to be able to entertain him. But when you meet a special person, you don't want to continue to show that. When I told folks about who was going to be presiding, I got nothing but smiles from these folks right now, and you can all see why. So thank you, sir, very much for your dedication to your teaching and mentoring. And then finally, I really want to thank everybody who's here today, because I think we are all a part of this mission. What we exist to do is to support the difficulty that we have in concluding these things. I really want to thank you all for what you do every day. I'm hoping that the speech that I give answers a question. And what I ask a lot is why do we do what we do? Why do I do what I do? I'm going to leave you with my answer. It may not be the answer for you, but it's my answer, so I'm going to give it. But I think we do what we do because we believe something about ourselves. And we believe something beyond that about the human condition. And I think those two things really kind of drive us to go about what we can achieve. My story starts with a farm labor family, the 8th of 9 children, and an identical twin, which has all sorts of psychological problems, my wife knows. But my parents did the best they could, and the best they could was tell us to do the best we could. And so what that meant is school's there, do the best you can in school, but it's funny with school, the more that you just do the work, everything else is easier. And so they really taught us to try to do the best so that we can achieve the best, to achieve some of the things they didn't have advantages to do in their life. This lesson and the fact that my father struggled with his own disease, with epilepsy. So he struggled with it as a patient, he just struggled with it as a man, and as a human being, really led me to think about what I wanted to do. And that was to go into medicine. So I knew from a very young age, this is what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to come back and go to the farm labor community because they are in need and they are underserved. And that was my mission, really, to go back and do that. I joined the military after residency straight from civilian, really to look at a way of paying some of that loan. And thought, I can do 3 years. And I think it's a good thing to do. It's not what I want to do forever, but I think it's a good thing to serve. And so I think getting in there, let them use me, I can use them with money, and get out after 3 years. I think, though, that my definition of underserved kind of changed a bit, because when you look at who we serve, when you look at the enlisted, you look at the finances we have, when you look at the stresses that the military goes through, because we are in war, and the stresses that come from that, it's different than what some of the stresses are that folks have in the civil lifestyle. So my mind kind of changed to look at what population I'm serving, and it really has been very, for me, one of the biggest benefits of my life is wearing this uniform. I didn't think that was going to be the case when I started, but it really has been a significant impact. And I think this is where I can make the most impact in life. It's hard, though, to try to keep this level of commitment in our current situation with the jobs you're doing. Somebody's always asking you to do a metric grade. Somebody's always looking at those types of goals and achievements. And I do, like I think a lot of you do, I do struggle with that. To say that what really drives me when the daily message and feedback I get might be different than what I think may be the definition of success. For me, actually, interestingly, this trip back to Germany, because I was here prior, really kind of crystallized that. And a lot of it came from a trip that we took recently to Normandy. We had wanted to go there the last time we were here until we got to it. And so I thought, yeah, I really want to go there. I thought it would be something that we'd be able to see some history. But that really had a tremendous impact and kind of crystallized what I started thinking about why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so I'd like to read a letter to you from a French author. This was highlighted at the Utah Nature Memorial there in Normandy. And it's titled Letter to an American. I'm going to get this wrong, but it's Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote this. And he wrote, I left the United States in April 1943 to rejoin my wartime comrades in North Africa. I traveled on board an American convoy. This convoy transported 50,000 of your soldiers from the United States to North Africa. Upon awakening, I took a walk on the deck. and found all around me a city on the move, 30 ships more powerfully on the ocean. But I felt something else besides a simple feeling of power. For me, this convoy reminded me of a crusade in rejoicing. American friends, in the interest of justice, I would like to be fair to you all. It is possible that you will take advantage of your material power, today or in the future, in a way that will seem unfair to us. If the war is won by believers, peace treaties are sometimes dictated by businessmen. Oh well, even if one day we become disdainful of some of their decisions, these reproaches would never allow me to forget the noble objective of your people during war. In regards to the quality of your character, I will always hold the same to be true. It is not in the pursuit of material interest that mothers in the United States gave up their sons. It is not in the pursuit of material interest that these boys accepted the risk of death. I know, and will say it again later at home, for each spiritual crusade each of you has given himself to the Lord. If your soldiers had gone to the war only for self-defense of American interest, the propaganda would have emphasized your oil fields, your plantations, and your threatened commercial markets. Instead, it scarcely touched on such subjects. If other things were being spoken of, it is because your boys wanted to hear something different. And what were they told that could have motivated them to sacrifice their lives? They were told of hostages hanged in Poland. They were told of prisoners shot in France. They were told that a new form of slavery threatened to extinguish a part of humanity. They were told not about themselves, but of others. They gave them a sense of solidarity with all mankind. The 50,000 soldiers in my convoy went to war not to save American citizens, but rather for man himself, respect for mankind, liberty for all men, for the greatness of man. That poem really touched me in a way that nothing had done, and being in Normandy was really very emotional. But I think that we have a lot to learn from our past, more so for us as airmen, that our own generation is in our own current war. That we need to learn and cherish the simple yet powerful human characteristics that truly motivate us as human individuals. How do we achieve and sustain that quality of character that Antoine de Saint-Exupéry ascribed to our World War II comrades? How do we achieve that? How do we in our culture recapture and sustain that greatness of man that he talks about? How do we do that in our culture of materialism and isolation, not just politically, but in our own current American culture? How do we stay true to this belief when deadlines, metrics, and adulations drive our roles and work every day? I think that part of the answer is that we realize we have to pay the play. We have to pay it forward as they did at Normandy and in Iraq, as our comrades at Saint-Exupéry described it in their lives. I believe we must work towards a goal, to improve ourselves, each other, to improve ourselves, each other, and the mission. You do the best you can for the best reasons. Those best reasons may be your family. Those best reasons may be your children, your loved ones, your patients, or your mission. That is who you are working for. That is why you're putting in the hard work and the long hours. For the best reasons, not the metrics, not just to look good while the patient or your family suffers. I have some great examples. My immediate example, I have two here. So Miss Sharon Franklin, to be embarrassed, as our new case manager. Extremely hardworking, retired nurse, probably spending more time than she thought at this job. But I think also making an impact to each and every patient she touches, more than I think she ever realized. Another example is Captain Weller and Sergeant Prasad, who are the drivers for the best EFMP office I've ever seen in my 15 years, being in EFMP specifically. They treat each sponsor with compassion and expertise. I would hope that they could stay here forever to have this impact. But we know in the Air Force this can't happen. We know that the military has other missions. But we know that there are going to be others who follow. And those others have to accomplish this best mission that the active duty and their family members deserve. This is easier said than done, right? This is the hard part, to create an atmosphere where this happens every day, where every one of our troops and team members sees this. It seems in the Air Force you have to recreate that atmosphere anew in every new base we go to. But I think that success is really measured in what we leave behind. One of the things I've always believed is that everyone has this ability to succeed. This ability is just not in that shining star, but in everybody. My job, now with the power of an 06, but I think really it's the responsibility that I have now as a leader, is to encourage those who serve, the airmen who are truly getting the mission done, as we try to make them experts and bring out their best. I think that today's celebration of my promotion is driven to a charge to get this message to those underneath. If all this is just words to you, then I'd like to explain this just with one more poem that explains a little bit more eloquently than I think I can. My children have all heard this poem. This poem is titled Our Deepest Fears from Marianne Williamson. You might have seen it in the Coach Cardinal movie. It talks about our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are all a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That poem is one of my favorites. It really works for me. I hope I can inspire others to see this, but in the end, it's all up to us as individuals to believe what we want to believe. However, I do believe we can inspire others and impact their lives. This, I believe, is the way I would like to live. As paraphrased in The Last Samurai and the character Matsumoto, this would really help me to experience life in every breath. I'd like to finish by going back to the beginning of this speech. Why do we do what we do? We do it based on what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about the human condition. That we can use our deepest challenges and our deepest fears to truly bring out the best in ourselves and others. Colonel Mitchell, thank you. You're definitely an example of a leader who teaches and leads based on belief in the human condition. My wife and family also show me this in action every day, and I thank you. My colleagues, this is what we do. This is what you do every day. Because of this, I would like to thank my wife, my children, my family, Colonel Mitchell, and all of my colleagues for being my inspiration. And I hope that I can inspire others as they have done.